Hi everyone, Jonas and Rob here from 52 Things, and today we're going to show you how to do an aerial hyperlapse. The hyperlapse is essentially a moving time lapse, so a sequence of photos that is shot so that it speeds up the action that is going on, and then a movement of the camera. And we've done some videos of this in the past, but now we're gonna step it up, take it to the next level, and do an aerial hyperlapse using a drone.
What we're going to do here is we're going to be taking a series of photos. Instead of doing video that you speed up, I think photos are going to be better because if you shoot raw photos, it gives you a lot more latitude. You can pull a lot more out of the sky and the ground. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be setting on an interval of 5 seconds. You can do it lower, but right now the minimum for this device is 5 seconds if you're shooting raw. So that's what we're going to do.
To sum up the basic settings, first make sure you're in photo mode, then click photo settings to switch to time shot. Set your interval. Minimal interval for this drone shooting raw pictures is, like we said, 5 seconds and 2 seconds if you shoot JPEGs. I prefer shooting with image size 4:3. It gives you a bigger picture to work with compared to 16:9. Shooting with manual settings, aperture, shutter speed and ISO will make the photos in your sequence match better, but on a clear day when light conditions won't change too much, probably not a big deal. And the next thing is to set a path for your drone to fly.
There's a few different ways to set a path. I think the easiest is to go into your intelligent flight modes and click on tap fly, and then you click a point on the horizon and it's going to go to that. Now every 5 seconds it's taking an image, and you can see right here it's moving at 2 miles per hour. You can adjust the speed right here, so you can go faster or slower, but for this hyperlapse you want to go very slow on the horizon. 2 miles per hour. It's taking an image every 5 seconds. Now, there's obviously ways to make this really cool and cinematic and creative. We're just here on this lake with some clouds going by. I think it looks decent enough, and it's good for our tutorial.
There are different intelligent flight modes that you can play with for this, but since we only have about 20 minutes of battery time and we're shooting one photo every 5 seconds, we really want to get started pretty fast in order to get as many photos as possible. So we won't have too much time to mess around with our setup. So the tap fly mode is a quick and good way to get a good number of shots. Rotating around a point using the point of interest flight mode sounded better than it looked. Ugh.
A couple things to remember. If you hit tap fly on the horizon and you're going 2 miles an hour, it's going to start heading off into the distance at a pretty good pace. So you have to keep in mind your battery, because you want to make sure you're getting it back, the wind speed, and the direction. Because if you're going actually downwind and you don't bring it back with enough time, you're going to get in trouble. So make sure to follow all the rules, of course. Keep an eye on that drone. Be safe.
And when you're done, it's time to bring home those photos.
Stop! Come home before you crash!
The post-production of the pictures is pretty much the same as our other time-lapse and hyperlapse tutorials. I import the photos to Adobe Lightroom and highlight all of the shots in the sequence. We then go to the Develop tab and move to a shot somewhere in the middle, which is usually a good reference. I work up the photo to how I want it to look, with color, contrast, saturation, everything else that you want to touch up. One tip to make the clouds pop is to drag down the highlight slider. You can also add a graduated filter to just the bright sky to do the changes on the sky only, or the same thing to the areas of the generally darker ground. Once you feel happy with the photo that you have touched up, go down here and hit the sync button, which will apply the changes that you want to the other highlighted photos. Then export all of the photos as JPEGs to a new folder. Open up Adobe After Effects, go to Import and select the first picture in the folder with the exported JPEG pictures. This will import this little icon here that looks kind of like a stack of photos, which is pretty much what it is. If you drag this file down to here, the new composition button, After Effects will create a new composition with the settings matching the settings of the images. So it will be this 4:3 frame with sort of weird dimensions for a video, but it will give you more options when you export the video clip and open it up in your video editor. But before we export the video clip, I will add warp stabilizer to the clip. I mean, we are working with a drone and there will definitely be some shakes, so Warp Stabilizer will help take some of that shaking out. I'm decreasing the smoothness to about 20 because when it applies the stabilizer, it kind of cuts into the image, and by decreasing the smoothness, I can decrease how much I allow it to do that. I also changed the framing to stabilize only. And if I play it through, you can see that it moves the image around, creating this black border as the stabilizer is doing its thing. And when I later put this video clip in the video editor that I'm using, I will then have to stretch the clip just enough so that this black edge doesn't show. But since we're working with an image that has a higher resolution than my 1080p HD video frame, this won't make a big difference. To export the clip, go to Composition and Add to Render Queue. Click here to pick a location and name for your exported clip. And then over here on the left to choose an export format. Now, normally when I quickly export a time-lapse or hyperlapse, an H.264 format is usually enough and a file size that is easier to work with. But since we created the composition this way, letting the program generate the composition based on the photo dimensions, we can't export it as an H.264. Or we can, but it just won't come out as good. Instead, for these type of time-lapses or hyperlapses, I export them as an Apple ProRes. The file size will be bigger though, so that's just a good thing to remember. Now when you're done, just hit the render button and wait for that sweet clip to get ready.
I do not recommend that at home, folks. It's like catching a chainsaw.
That was good. Something fun for all you drone flyers to try out this weekend. Hope you enjoyed it.
And thanks to all of you who are supporting us via Patreon. Links below if you want to do that. We really appreciate it.
And thanks to everyone else for watching the video. Stay tuned for the video coming out next Tuesday.
Whoa, that was so good. We did it.